Good morning. Happy Wellness Wednesday. I am sitting here, I left my coffee, in front of this beautiful window, just kind of looking outside at the trees, and it's raining again in Southern California. I am sick of the rain. But I'm hopping on here to talk about Wellness Wednesday today and have a conversation, not really a conversation, it's just mostly me talking. But if you hop on, say hi and we can interact that way on what is body positive. It is Eating Disorder Awareness Week officially, I'm pretty sure. And it just basically means a week to recognize, bring awareness to, bringing attention to disease of how you eat, of how the mind works in relation to how you eat and the body. And there's different types of diseases. You can have a clinical diagnosis of eating disorders, but then we also can live in the land of you don't really have a clinical diagnosis. It's nothing that you're going to go to the doctor for, but maybe you really struggle with the food that you choose to eat. Struggle being you're obsessed about it, you're hyper-focused on it, or it brings upon a lot of anxiety. It just kind of interrupts your status quo. Struggle could be you have a very gluttonous response to food, where I overeat consistently, and I feel a lot of guilt or shame about it. And so there can be different types of behaviors that can fit into disordered eating. There also can be this part where how you feel about your body is you feel guilty or anxious or fearful or ashamed about the body that you're in. Now, that doesn't mean that if you don't feel those things, you feel amazing all of the time, because that's definitely not the goal, is to feel amazing all of the time. But it's when these feelings interrupt maybe your social life, interrupt maybe even your financial health, maybe interrupt your marriage, interrupt parenting, interrupt roles that you have in this life. And it just takes up a lot of your mental capacity, where you just feel like, gosh, I think about food all the time and I'm tired of it. I think about how I look or how I feel in my body all the time. And it's getting to be like consuming. What body positive means is you are now taking a concentrated effort to work on the language and the feelings that you have about your body. So it doesn't mean that you feel positive all the time. I think sometimes when people talk about body positivity or health at every size, it means that there's this radical acceptance and you feel good in your body all the time. That's not necessarily what it means. Like, my dog is wanting to play because he thinks I'm sitting here. I usually sit here and play with him, but we're not playing, I'm talking. So it can be misleading, the term, but let's just take a step back and kind of redefine what the intention is supposed to be. We live in a culture where we like to identify ourselves. We like to identify what we are in terms of, are we a man? Are we a woman? Are we Christian? Are we Jewish? Are we Republican? Are we Democrat? We love identification, and we love putting things in boxes where it's black or white. And so that's human nature. It makes things structured. It gives things rules, which in my habits of thinking assessment, we can measure that. That can be a very systemic way of thinking, which is, again, not bad or good, a way of thinking. My father was a very systemic thinker when it came to certain things. He was an electrical engineer, and he loved, if he was watching this, he would say yes. He's very smart, creating systems where electricity could work. You have to have a very systemic way of thinking in order to do that. There is a right, there is a wrong. It's very mathematical, science, all of this stuff. But sometimes our way of thinking we like to break the rules because the rules don't make sense. There's a chance to question the rules, and that's going to be a different way of thinking. That's challenging the status quo, which I really like to do, sometimes to my detriment. I really like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. I don't want to listen to that, which can be good for my line of work because I like making my own rules. But it can be to my detriment when those rules are actually there to support me. So how does this relate to your body? So in diet culture, there are rules. You need to weigh a certain amount. You need to eat a certain amount in order to be deemed healthy, which has its place. When I was a clinical dietitian, there definitely has its place when you have someone who is not conscious, who is sedated, and is eating through a tube or going straight to their peripheral system, or literally putting the nutrients into their body for their body to work. There's gotta be rules. There's gotta be things to measure where you're measuring different amounts of protein or carbohydrates or whatever. There's gotta be rules for life to sustain. When you're working with disease like heart disease or blood pressure, there are rules. Eat less than 2,000 milligrams of sodium, even less. Eat 2,000 milligrams of potassium, things to protect your kidneys or your heart or your blood pressure. When you're working with someone that has a healthy metabolism, sometimes there's rules that don't make sense. But we impose them on ourselves because we think the blog that we read makes us feel good. And again, I'm not shaming any of these rules, but we come up with our own rules. And then because we have information at our fingertips, we deem these rules as truth. So let me give you an example. Intermittent fasting. There are rules that kind of don't make sense. There's a clock that you listen to and you time these fasting states. If you don't know what intermittent fasting is, it's you eat for 8 hours and then you fast for 16. And so there's an 8-hour window during the day when you're awake that you eat whatever meals you're going to eat. And then the clock stops at 6 p.m. and then you don't eat until like 10 a.m. the next day. So from 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. it's called fasting. Intermittent fasting. Now some people do this every day. Some people do this 3 times a week. They come up with these rules that are black or white that if you don't listen to them, you're a bad person. Not necessarily like bad morally, not yet, but you didn't listen to the rules. Oh, I'm so bad. I just did an intermittent fast. I fell out of line. I fell off the wagon. And this vernacular, these types of words starts to seep in to the way that we treat our food and the way we treat our body. What happens when you use those types of words in the brain is it starts to seep into your subconscious, and then you start to believe that you are a bad person. And let me give you an example on a fresh brain. So my son is 8. When he was 5, he was in kindergarten, and my oldest doesn't really like following the rules. He likes challenging the rules, and that's his personality. And so he didn't understand in kindergarten a lot of these rules. They didn't make sense to him. He's 5 or 6. He was consistently on, and I think this was his experience when he was in kindergarten. He was consistently getting red marks. He was on the red being he wasn't listening to the rules. It was happening so frequently that one night he came home and he was in tears. He was on red again. And he started to say, I must be a bad kid because I can't listen to the rules. Oh, it's really taking a lot of strength to not, I'm okay with crying, but I don't really want to cry right now. And I thought, wait a minute. These rules are there for your kindergarten teacher and for whatever to kind of keep the chaos from getting too chaotic. So the rules are there for a reason. And you are not a bad kid. What is happening where you're thinking that? And he was like, well, I'm always on red. I can't listen to the rules, so I must be bad. And it was as a mom, you step back and you thought, oh my gosh, Okay, so we had, since then, it's been 3 years, we've kind of navigated some of that language. But if you take that into how you're applying your diet or your body weight, if you are not listening to these made up rules that you've come up with because you've listened to an intermittent fasting podcast, which I'm not shaming podcasting, or I'm not shaming intermittent fasting, hear me on that. But if the rules you're not listening to and you start saying, I'm a bad person, or it could go the other way. I'm really good because I'm following this perfect diet. It doesn't have anything to do with your moral character. It doesn't have anything to do with how your body gets to show up in the world. Because you're a human and because you have a body, you have worth. Period. Period. There's no qualifier after that. You don't have a better experience or you don't have more worth because you have a perfect BMI, which doesn't exist. You don't have a good experience because you have the perfect diet. That's crazy talk that doesn't exist. However, if that's what you're feeling or if that is your experience, I want to validate that is really, really hard. And that's where the body positivity movement is looking to address. If you feel like your body is less than, if you feel like your food behaviors are less than, the body positive movement is attempting to attend to that. Where let's take a step back and let's really look at your behavior doesn't dictate your worth. Your body doesn't dictate your worth. So let's do that, and we can still have health behaviors. You can still want to gain weight, lose weight. You can do those things outside of your inherent worth, but just be mindful that your body and your worth are not attached. Unattach them, and you can work on them separately. That's really, really hard to do. It's very hard to do. It's very tricky. And that's where I like to step in to say, okay, let's just make sure that these are separate. We can medically work on some things that you would like to work on, but let's be really mindful that it's not attacking how you feel about yourself. And if you've struggled with chronic dieting or up and down with your weight, I would like to suggest that it has been pulling at your worth just a little bit because of the environment that we're in and the culture that we're in. It's so loud. It's so loud that your body dictates your worth, and it's so painful. And so I almost want to give you like a big hug and say, in this week, focus on saying, my body is worthy, my body has value, and that might bring up a lot of feelings. Listen to those feelings if you can. If not, find a safe place where you can listen to those feelings. And that's where my practice will step in, is just really navigating some of these really hard conversations. I can do it in a single session with you. We can do it a month at a time. I can partner with you to try to navigate some of this. We can also do groups. If you have some family or friends, or if you have a group that knows how to kind of get together, and I can lead and coach this group of attending to your relationship with your body, attending to your relationship with food, because it matters. It does matter. If you're parenting as a mama, your relationship with your body will affect the family. And so how you show up will affect the rest of the family. So especially as a maternal influence, I need to pay attention so I can allow my kids to define their relationship with their food and keep it super separate. So that is a personal goal of mine. All right. Happy Wellness Wednesday. Hi, Donalou. Hi, Wynn. Hi, Charlene, if you're still watching. Thank you so much for supporting me, and especially in the wake and just this really, really difficult experience of losing a parent. It is like nothing I've ever experienced. I've never done this before. So thank you for allowing me the space. And it is definitely some of the clients that I've worked with in the last couple weeks, they've lost their parents. And so it's just been a really being able to feel the feelings with them and step into just a space of grief, but also still being functional, and also still being functional. It's nothing like I've ever done before. So thank you so much for the time. Happy Wellness Wednesday. And if you have any questions, please reach out, send me a message, comment here, and I will get in touch with you. Okay, bye.